Velvet, the least of chimps.
Is this the last interview? I've been here all day, please. I just want to know if I got the job, or...
Congratulations. You have been selected for the very competitive role of man. The session will begin shortly.
Session? What session? I thought this was a sales job. What do you... Hey, what's back there?
Congratulations. This is the woman you are now allowed to mate.
What? No. That's not what... Oh, holy shit, let me out! Let me out! Oh, God!
The chimp, dressed in velvet lingerie, nurses her wounds. Even a coward can leave a scar.
Congratulations. You have been selected for the very competitive role of man.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna make so much money. What do I got to do? I'm going to do it.
This is the woman.
What the
She has never known a gentle touch. And as the day's labor continues,
Congratulations. This is the woman.
Hey, that's not.
the chimp in velvet lingerie grows weak. Not in her body, but her heart. She lays on the ground, and no air does she take.
What the heck? A chimp in lingerie? It's not moving. Is this real? It looks so real. Oh, hey, it's alive!
Humankind believes it has graduated from the wilderness. Velvet knows how easily this certainty falls away. When confronted with nature, they panic.
Let me out! Oh, please, God! Let me out!
And in that panic,
No, it's you or me, chimp. Let's go! Let's go!
man is an animal again. By the dozen, the sliding doors to the rooms of labor groan open, and the chimps all return from the day's toil in blood-spattered attire. Chimps dressed as police officers, doctors, army generals, and cowboys. Chimp mailmen, chimp directors, chimp HR professionals. Velvet, the woman, is the last to arrive. A fingernail gouge on her arm bleeds a dehydrated trickle. From doors 18 and 172, the lawyer and the fire chief do not emerge. Tomorrow, new chimps will be displaced from the room of childhood where Velvet was born, where she met the hiding man.
Congratulations, chimp. You have been selected for the very competitive role of the woman. You do not need to escape.
There were other women before her. Satin, velour, fishnet. One day, the hiding man will crush Velvet too. The intercom overlooking the room of recreation crackles to life. Only Velvet regards it. She snarls.
Good work today, chimps. Work hard, play hard.
The hiding man is not an animal. He never changes, except in decay. The hiding man is a demon. Velvet does not know if a chimp can kill a demon, but if given the chance, she will learn. Velvet cries out as an object collides with her skull. She staggers but does not fall. The object thuds to the ground, a baseball. Velvet looks back to see a familiar tormentor in a baseball cap and windbreaker. The coach chimp. He bends over and smacks his ass cheeks at her. His cronies laugh with him. The deputy, the law clerk, the pickler. Even among chimps, the woman knows no refuge. Any creature that dons clothing long enough inherits a foul hierarchy. The other chimps chatter and reenact the day's work. Most chimpanzees live for their career. The librarian, the priest, the video editor. Jobs with easy victims. Velvet has no such passion. One day she might not fight to save her life, but to earn her death. The feeding chute rattles and the other chimps let out a howl of glee. Chimps in suits, chaps, and robes crowd around the chute. Velvet tries to jockey for a spot, but the nearest chimps turn on her. A chimp in a powdered wig shoves her, and she catches the floor with her shoulder. Velvet endures the harsh laughter of chimps once again. When the mob finally clears, all that remains in the trough are teeth, noses, and neckties. The lights dim with a flicker.
Get some rest,
The other chimpanzees do not obey. At night, the chimps battle each other for apparel. Tonight, the doctor will spar the oil baron for his top hat. Velvet knows no chimp would fight her for the panties or honor her challenge. Most days, she's too weak anyway. Already wobbling on her feet, Velvet retreats to her stained cot in the corner. Her dream that night is her day's sole nourishment. She dreams she climbs the walls and tears the intercom open. She finds the hiding man inside, a man of flickering flame. She dreams she reaches through his ribs and eats his heart. Velvet chews the hiding man's heart until the screams wake her. There is a sudden snap of thunder, an intense light and heat. Chimps cry out in the white void. Other voices rattle through the walls. Velvet hears each scream and responds with hoots and growls. Her cries are not of agony, but alarm. Then all is black. The chimps have gone silent. Velvet doesn't hear a whimper from the dozens of chimps in the vast room. She calls out names in the dark. There is no answer.
Devon, The Awakening.
A cool breeze blows from the windows over Devon's face. It's smoky, with an earthy undertone of fennel. He opens his eyes, but his vision is blurry and kaleidoscopic. He squeezes his eyelids open and shut, catching quick glimpses of a strange room. Devon drifts to sleep when a voice whispers into the room.
Daddy? Come on, Daddy, wake up. It's time to wake up.
Devon's heart thumps. His eardrums pulse with every beat. He clicks, but he's too weak. Fatigue overwhelms him, but he fights it and counts his breaths. He blinks his eyes into focus. The room is white. A curtain is pulled halfway around his bed. He looks through the open window. In the distance, the Hollywood Hills are scorched, and small fires burn what's left. Some buildings are stained black with smoke around broken windows, while others stand dark and reflectionless. The sky is purple from either sunrise or sunset. The glow of the fires paint the sky with warm streaks of pink. No sirens, no traffic, no helicopters or planes flying over. Silence impossible for Los Angeles. Neither does the terrible scene stir him. In all his lives, past, present, and future, this is nothing unfamiliar. His immortal memory is stained with images of soldiers lighting fire to grass huts, raiders storming under the moon illuminated by floating embers, brief outlines of bones and bodies from X-rays thrown from an atomic blast. The silence is curious, but he is unconcerned. Devon sits up with all his strength and lifts his hands to rub his eyes. Short but violent screams of pain run up his forearms. He looks down and sees where IV lines have torn away under his skin. He follows the lines to nearly empty IV bags hanging from either side of his bed. They drip from gravity, but all other machines are off. He carefully removes the IVs from his arms and grits his teeth as he rips off the taped EKG electrodes that take chest hair along with them. Devon drags his knees over the bed and leans forward. His legs immediately collapse under his weight and he crashes to the ground, his right cheek landing hard on cold linoleum. His ears ring, and once the pain settles, he tries to push himself up, but he can't. The floor is cold on his face. Again, he wants to sleep. Her voice. Devin pulls himself up the bed and catches his breath. He steadies himself with the bed rail and drags himself over to a wheeled IV stand that he uses as a crutch. He takes baby steps to the sink and sees his reflection in an 8x10 mirror glued to the cabinet. Hollow, purple-bagged eyes stare back above a scraggly brown beard with streaks of gray. An archipelago of dried scabs dot his face bordered by fresh, pink skin. A wristband hangs loose beneath his hand. Harris, Devin, and a barcode stamped from a printer low on ink. A folded note is taped to his shirt. He removes it and reads lines in alternating handwriting.
Hey, bud. Ugh. Ouch, ouch. Ugh.
Tough break, buddy.
Okay, long story short, but
We gotta take Chalmers to a volcano and destroy him.
no time to explain.
We'll be gone for a bit, maybe forever. I don't know.
But while we're gone, don't touch our stuff.
Have a cool summer.
Signed,
Brother Reed.
and Pastor Andrew.
P.S. Chalmers says hi. And
Adios, muchacho.
I think you spelled muchacho wrong.
no, I didn't.
Chacho. Huh. I don't know, man. It looks weird for some reason.
Yeah, I see it.
Yeah, maybe because
The last word runs to the end of the page. Devin flips the note over, but nothing is on the back. He sighs, crumples the paper, and drops it on the floor.
Daddy, it's time to go.
Echoes from the hallway. The IV stand squeaks as he limps through the door. Sunlight trickles in through open doors. The walls are lined all yellow, gray, and sinister. No pictures hang, just rows of signs pointing in competing directions to cardiothoracic ICU, stairs, family waiting area, elevators. Devin pushes his IV stand forward when a wheel gets caught. A shapeless puddle of waxy goo is spread out at his feet, poured out of rumpled nurses' scrubs, decorated with repeating patterns of Garfield the cat. Whoever was wearing them melted like a candle. Down the hall, more puddles of sludge, oozing out of lab coats. Heaps of waxy hospital gowns stick to the floor. A streak of congealed pink slime slides down the wall beneath a fire alarm from a desperate grasp for help. An overwhelming stench of fennel. Behind him, the door to the stairwell swings shut with a metallic clink. He goes to it and takes the stairs down one at a time, stopping often to catch his breath. Finally, he arrives at a door that reads, "Emergency door, alarm will sound." It opens silently, and he walks outside. An unimaginable scene of destruction lays out in front of him. Cars smashed into one another, the broken off tail wing of a commuter jet on its side, on top of a burnt out food truck. Puddles of dried goo spilled from disembodied clothes in the road and down the sidewalks. A helpless feeling of isolation knots in his throat, then sinks into his belly when he feels a tug on his hospital gown. She looks up at him, smiling with big blue eyes. Her hair is pulled back in a green bow. A jagged front tooth is half grown in next to a crowded baby tooth. Devin drops to his knees and pulls her close. Tears stream down his face, and he weeps with his whole body.
Kayla! 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 Kayla!
He cries her name over and over.
Velvet. Flesh piles.
The hiding man wakes Velvet. Artificial light flickers in the room of recreation. No chimps occupy the other beds. There are no chimps sparring in the court or fighting for position at the food chute. Velvet is alone, save the 100 wobbling piles of pink wax. They melt on the floor, in the cots, in the bathroom corner. One wears a cowboy hat. Her heart races. She spots a blob in a baseball hat and windbreaker. Amidst the horror is a tickle of joy.
Every day starts with a balanced breakfast.
The food chute opens, and for once, the woman receives the first portion. She can't help it. She hoots in glee. Yet what drops through is not meat, but a slab of hazy pink wax. It wears a tattered sock. Velvet sniffs at the sludge with her flat snout. It reeks of fennel. Her nostrils flare, and she bounces back with a derisive hoot. Her stomach rumbles.
Time to work.
Though she is alone, Velvet obeys the hiding man. He too has survived the night's cataclysm. A demon. Perhaps he was responsible. She drags herself to the farthest room of labor. Through the sliding door and down the line, Velvet hears the hiding man speak in several rooms at once.
Congratulations. You have passed our rigorous screening and now worked the position of regional sales director. High school principal, manager, head of operations team, search,
No chimp waits beside her. She wonders if the hiding man saved or doomed her, or if he simply forgot her.
This is the woman.
The new hire on the other side is quiet. No hollers of joy, no screams of fear. Velvet adjusts her bra strap and bares her teeth, anticipating the fight. The aluminum door slides open. The room is empty, save for a dripping column of melting pink flesh in the door jamb. Another sliding door tries to close on the molten man, slicing inches deeper and deeper through his shoulders. He does not notice. His arm reaches only for Velvet.
I got a job.
Velvet has never seen into the room beyond. It is black, empty, yet inviting. She can hear the hiding man in the unknown beyond.
$5,000 per session.
She recalls her dream, the taste of the hiding man's heart. Was it a dream or a prophecy? Velvet hops from foot to foot. The door slices deeper through the man to his waist. The aluminum sheet slides up again. Velvet runs for the opening and pushes past the molten man. The pink waxy flesh clings to her fur, stretches like hot mozzarella. She howls in disgust. The chimp squeezes through moments before the door slices the blob in half. With the door shut behind her, it is pitch black. At once, a light blinds Velvet. A lamp shines in her eyes, which have only known dark.
Are you interested?
The hiding man is here. Through the light, her pinprick pupils focus on a silhouette, a human man behind a desk. She lunges over the desk at the hiding man. His head comes loose too easily. He is no real man, not even pink flesh. The head crumples. He is a man of fabric. She pulls out his rattling insides. A den of centipedes has made a home in the cotton. Velvet spins toward the sound. The hiding man hides behind another door. Velvet's heart thumps in her ears, a pounding rhythm that shakes her vision. The door pops open and Velvet charges through the rumble. A corridor sprawls before her, lined with plastic chairs, each occupied by melting pink dead. 100 blobs each patiently wait their turn. Her courage disappears. Velvet grapples at the metal door shut behind her, but cannot claw it open. The puddles, not yet dead, take notice of her cries. They try to stand, but pull themselves apart in the process. Torsos drag themselves in Velvet's direction.
Devin, father.
Devin holds Kayla's tiny hand as they head down the sidewalk. She jumps over puddles of goo and laughs when she lands. Weird, shoulder-high crystal trees grow out of the pavement and cement, with pink reflective limbs that shine like diamonds. Sap trickles down the boughs. Devin goes to one and kneels at the base. He dips his ring finger in the dark resin. He rubs it against his thumb and brings it to his nose. He licks his fingertip. The trees are leaking Krakoa. Devin smiles. He wipes the sap on his gown and stares up at the cloudless sky. It's dark purple, neither dark nor night. An ill planet, black and plasmatic, hangs in the sky, too close to the Earth. Perhaps this time it's really the end. Or worse, a new beginning.
Hey, Daddy.
She stands on the hood of a champagne-colored Ford Taurus with her arms proudly akimbo. Devin reflexively wants to call her to come down, but catches himself and smiles. The world is theirs, after all.
Queen of the Hill.
Kayla laughs and comes back to him, jumping across hoods and roofs of cars. He takes her hand again and she giggles.
What's so funny, Sugar Pop?
Your clothes are silly. Look.
Kayla points at a storefront window. Devin looks at his reflection. His arms are bony and his cheeks sunken in. The gown hangs loosely from his shoulders. Devin's wrists hang below his waist, holding a hand that is not there. Kayla has no reflection. He turns away from the window and smiles down at Kayla.
Come on, kiddo. Let's keep going.
They walk down Cienega Boulevard. Strange orbs twinkle around them like fireflies, then sparkle and disappear. Kayla runs ahead, trying to catch them, but they evaporate before she can get her hands on them.
Don't go too far.
Devin doesn't let her out of his sight. He watches her, taking photographs in his mind, focusing to stay in the present. But flashes of the last day he saw her appear behind his eyes. He tries to blink the memories away, but they play again like a film reel. Devin shuts the screen door behind him and walks down the wooden steps into the backyard holding 2 popsicles. They've already begun to melt, sticking to the heels of his palms.
Kayla!
He shouts in a sing-song. She's nowhere to be found. His heart skips and he cries out,
Kayla!
Still nothing. The surface of the pool is flat, and it's quiet except for the filter knocking open and shut. He books it to the pool and gets on his hands and knees. Kayla floats on her side, suspended beneath the surface and the tiled bottom. He dives in and grabs her, desperately swimming to the edge with one arm while holding her limp body in the other. He pushes her out of the water and pulls himself up. Her face is blue and gray, her eyelids half open. Devin pushes on her stomach, and water lazily flows out of her mouth. He attempts CPR but doesn't know how, so he rushes into the house and dials 911. His memories turn into faded blips. Paramedics try to revive her with such force, he begs them to be gentle. The ambulance disappears down the road, slowly without lights on, as a police officer takes a statement. Sitting in the corner of his mother's dining room in a tight black suit, friends and neighbors speak quietly while grazing on cold cuts and carrots off paper plates. The endless refrain of, "I'm so sorry," and "I know what you're going through." Staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m., all the things he could have done differently. Missing work until he had no work to go to. That unusual flyer for a support group that led him to the basement of the church he'd never leave. All roads lead to the story, forevermore.
Wow, Daddy, look.
Devin snaps back to the present. Kayla stands before him with her hands cupped. A ball of shimmering light floats above her palms. She blows on it and it turns into an evanescent vapor. Devin smirks.
Hold Daddy's hand. We're almost there.
They make it a few paces before she shrieks. There's a pile of pink slime in front of them, still bubbling. A single eye floats in the middle and individual teeth sink into the ooze. It groans.
Just close your eyes. Here.
Devin picks up Kayla and steps over it. He goes farther down the block until it's clear.
Okay, we're safe.
Kayla opens her eyes and rests her chin on his shoulder.
That was scary. Were you scared?
No, honey. No.
She's quiet for a moment.
Do you ever get scared?
Sometimes, yeah.
Scared of what?
Devin thinks, not only of this life, but of all the ones that have come before. He comes to an answer.
Cruelty.
What's that?
It's like when people are really mean on purpose and in a way that makes them happy.
That makes me sad.
Yeah, it makes Daddy sad too. I remember watching you sleep when you were little.
I'm not little, I'm a big girl.
That's right, you are a big girl. But I remember watching you sleep and wondering how a species that can be so sweet can become so cruel. And I think of all the things that happen to someone that makes them mean, and I feel sad and scared.
Was I ever cruel?
No, sweetheart. You were perfect.
Good.
Devin holds her as they go down Sunset Boulevard. She rests her chin on his shoulder and falls asleep. When they turn right on Tamarind Avenue, he gently wakes her up and sets her down. She yawns and rubs her eyes.
Where are we?
We're here.
Before them are black iron gates protecting a driveway. Behind the gates and up the driveway is the church of the story.
Velvet, the hiding man.
Velvet crouches low, breath frantic, eyes wide. She screams through the wax bodies. Her fists tear arms from shoulders, crush hands, and smash skulls. Where she would expect the celery crunch of broken bones, she hears nothing except sloshes and squelches. These are not men she splays apart. The room rings with the howls of a desperate chimpanzee. In seconds, she reaches the end of the hall, covered head to opposable toe in molten pink flesh. The puddles do not strive for her. They jiggle in her wake. All is silent.
Did you call ahead?
Another door awaits Velvet. She pulls on the handle, bashes on the metal. It will not open.
Did you call ahead?
Velvet pounds on the door with bruising fists.
Did you call ahead?
She peers around the hallway and sees a gap in the drop ceiling. Velvet tosses the shambled goo corpses from the plastic chairs one after another, amassing each chair into a pile beneath the gap. She mounts a stack of 20 chairs, climbing fast as it topples. With a leap, she inserts her forearm between the ceiling tiles and dangles above as the chair pile falls to the floor. The ceiling groans and gives, bending down. It holds just long enough for her to scramble above. In the dark space above the ceiling, Velvet crawls back to the locked door. Above the door, a cement wall meets her pounding fists. She follows the wall, leaving the hallway below for another, and sees light shine through a crack in the ceiling tiles far ahead. The chimp crawls for it. She tests her weight on the next segment. The tile gives out beneath her. Velvet plummets 10 feet onto a stiff wooden table. Her right leg bends too far to the side. A mechanical clicking fills the total dark of the room. Light flashes in her eyes. She is blind once more.
Welcome, Generals, to our quarterly budget presentation on Project Indignity.
The hiding man's voice rings from all directions. The pain makes her wince, but she shakily takes to her feet. Velvet spins around. What form will the demon take?
You might be asking yourselves, what kind of person subjects themselves to the debasement proffered legally by our forever corporations?
Velvet finally beholds the hiding man. He floats in the middle of the wall in a shining portal. She memorizes his every detail. the helmet of slick black hair, the white coat with emblems on the breast, his small, widely spaced teeth. She snarls.
We are glad to report 1 out of 6 filthy American pigs. Based on exit interviews, our forever corporations actually score higher than leading American swine employers.
Velvet beats her chest and roars at the hiding man. She lunges for his throat, but wherever she grabs, he leaps over her tearing fingers, her gnashing teeth. He does not float in the air, but lies pressed flat to the wall. The demon constructed himself of shadow and light.
Thanks to Team Real technology, facilities can be operated with minimal personnel, even after America crumbles. That's a savings we pass on to you. Now, let's hear from a few recent highlights.
She retraces the hiding man's shining light to a box, clicking and buzzing as though infested by roaches. The box shatters under the assault of her fists, and the hiding man's voice and image disappear. Her eyes adjust to the dark. Velvet is not alone. The table she landed on is surrounded by wooden chairs, each occupied not by a melting blob, but a mummified skeleton. Their cataclysm was not last night, but years ago. They wear the apparel of the chimp general, or suits like the men Velvet killed. Holes dot the center of each skull, through the sides, or low through the spine. She follows the line of dead up the table. Her breath goes still. The skeleton sitting at the head of the table wears a thick helmet of black hair, a white coat with emblems on the breast. His bony hand alone holds a rusted revolver, its chambers empty. His bullet hole is between the eyes, snapping the head back to reveal small, widely spaced teeth. Slowly, Velvet reaches between the lapels of the man's coat, through the tissue paper skin between the ribs. There is no heart inside. Her own heart shrinks and plummets. The ache in her leg throbs anew. Exhaustion slumps her body. All goes silent, and somewhere distant, she hears a voice. The hiding man's body is dead, but his voice lingers, a demon yet. The pain recedes to the back of her mind. Velvet slumps off the table. A secretary's desk and 2 shelves are piled against one end of the room. Through the bullet holes, Velvet can see light shine from the other side. She tears the shelves and desk away to reveal a door strewn with holes. It breaks open at her bashing. Lights flicker over a pile of strewn skeletons and their rusted assault rifles. Velvet crawls over the mounds of dusty military garb, all which bear some striped flag Velvet does not recognize. The ceilings are scorched black, the walls bleached from the firework blasts of flash grenades. Each step is a crunch of glass and plaster, muffled by inches of dust. She passes doors and doors until the hallway curves back on itself, a snake eating its own tail. One by one, the chimpanzee bashes through the doors, finding stockrooms of wires and speakers, skeletons slumped over toilets, and a library of audio tape, each as silent as the last. Velvet hoots at the ceiling, shaming the hiding man. She passes her own reflection and is startled at the sight. She is covered in dust and goo. Scars dash through patchy white fur, her lingerie tattered. The last door is not a door at all, but a wall of glass. It rings as she smacks her palms upon it. Thinking better, she returns to the table of skeletons and returns with the hiding man's gun. She throws it through the wall in a cascade of glass shards. Tall metal boxes fill the room on the other side, each humming a drone. Inset on the squares, black circles spin in lazy rotations. She inspects them. They are not circles, but rolls of dark serpent tongues. From within, the hiding man whispers. The hiding man's voice lives inside these false bodies. She bashes at one of the contraptions and pulls free a reel of black demon tongue. She eats the coil best she can. It chokes her. She spits it out. It will not sate her hunger. Her tormentor is no demon, but a dead man's voice trapped in a creaking machine. Her redemption fizzles. She cries. At the other end of the room, there is an exit. As her desolation goes numb, she trudges through, down a hallway to another door. Something glows around the edges of this portal that she cannot recognize. She pushes and pulls until the door pops open. She is blinded again, but this light is different. It's warm. For the first time in the chimp's life, she is outside. Sun shines down on the smoking havoc of the world. Pink puddles spill out of turned-over cars. Buildings sag into one another. The power lines drip with melted birds. Counter to the sun, a new orb looms over the wreckage, an ill planet. But Velvet knows neither it nor the sun. All is senseless and dead. There is no movement except wagging tongues of flame. Trapped in a cage for so many years, it is only now she feels alone.
Devin. Alone.
Wow, this place is huge!
Kayla's voice echoes throughout the empty church. She does laps around the pew, shouting, listening to her voice bouncing off the walls. Devin smiles and folds his arms. Kayla runs to the back of the altar and stops at the sacristy. A gilded but dusty box hangs on the wall. She opens it and takes out a glass pitcher filled with brown liquid. Devin heads towards her. She opens up the glass stopper and sniffs.
Ow! It stings! What is this?
Croa.
Ew, people drink it?
Devin laughs.
Some do.
Kayla puts the stopper back in when the pitcher slips out of her hands and shatters on the floor. The Croa sizzles and strips the finishing off the hardwood.
Oh no!
Her eyes go wide. Devin keeps his face expressionless and feigns silent anger. He crosses the altar and goes right past her without speaking.
Daddy, I'm sorry, don't be mad.
He reaches into the gold box and pulls out a bejeweled crystal Croa pitcher saved for the highest of story holidays. He turns to Kayla and stares at her without blinking. She covers her mouth. In one quick movement, Devin reels back and throws the pitcher through the massive stained glass window behind the altar. The window shatters, fizzing as Croa drips to the floor in a shower of motley glass. Devin and Kayla stare at each other, then burst out laughing. Finally, they catch their breath.
Hold on one sec, Sugar Pop.
Devin walks to the front of the altar where the book of the story lays on top of the lectern. He opens it and flips through the pages, reading snippets here and there of stories that have been told, and stories written but not read. He shuts the book and secures it under his arm.
What's that?
It's just a book. Daddy used to read out of it with a couple of his, coworkers.
Were you guys friends?
You could say that.
Were they ever cruel?
Devin thinks for a moment, then smirks.
No, just kind of stupid.
You said stupid.
Yeah, I guess I did.
Devin smiles and gets down on a knee.
Hey, kiddo, come here.
Kayla walks to him slowly, and he puts his arm on her shoulder.
I tell you what, Daddy's gonna get us some treats. I need you to stay here, okay? But you gotta do something for me.
Kayla nods.
Why don't you go ahead and trash the place? Knock stuff over, throw things through the windows. If it looks expensive, break it. Just don't hurt yourself, okay?
Really?
Sure.
Why?
Why not? This is all just stuff, distractions. Whether there are ever people in the pews or not, who cares? What people thought, it doesn't matter. They're all gone. Look around. What are we gonna do with all this?
Kayla nods solemnly like she understands. Devin pats her on the back.
Get busy.
Devin walks through the back of the church into the rectory. Muted sounds of breaking glass and loud, heavy thuds crash through the walls. He heads to the Story cantina and pulls a canvas tote bag off the wall. "The story's gonna getcha" is printed on the front. He goes to the pantry and starts filling it with an open bag of Oreos, a can of tuna well past its expiration date, swelling on the sides, some granola bars, and a bunch of freshly ripe bananas. He unlocks the deep freezer where a box of popsicles have stayed mostly frozen between bags of ice. He puts the popsicles in his tote and heads back to the church. Broken glass lines the floor. Candlesticks are spread over the ground and pews are tipped over. A line of chairs lay on their backs like fallen dominoes. Kayla sits on the altar with a grin, trying to catch her breath.
Okay, sweetheart, Daddy's got one last thing to do, but I need you to wait outside, okay? Here, take these.
He hands her the book of the story in the tote bag. Kayla nods and heads out to the front door. Devin puts his hands on his hips and takes in the church one last time. He walks over to the candle shrine. Extinguished votive tea candles sit in stacked rows below a silver symbol of the story. He takes a box of matches from the bottom shelf and walks to the altar. He lights a match and watches it burn.
The story must be told.
Devin tosses the match on the spilled Krakoa. Immediately it ignites and a line of fire runs to the back of the church in a flaming trail. He casually walks out and shuts the doors behind him. Flames devour the church, and the ceiling starts to fall, plank by plank. Down in the story's green space, Kayla waits for him on a bench, swinging her feet, eating a popsicle. He goes to her and she holds out one for him.
There were only 2 left.
Devin unwraps it and sits back. He speaks without looking at her.
You know, I could stop this whenever I wanted. The cycle, I mean, being born, living, dying, being born again. Who knows how many times I've lost count, but I've seen it all. I don't know why I'm cursed. I stopped wondering. A lot of these lives have been bad. Most have been very hard, but you know, every so often you come along, Kayla. I get to be your daddy, and there's so much joy in that. It cuts through everything else, and it's like a light that can't go out. And I guess that's why I keep going. A second of love is worth a lifetime of suffering, and I don't know, sometimes I feel like everyone forgets that, and maybe I'm being narcissist, but if I'm the only person on earth who can carry the light, then I will. And we've had a lot of great lives together, kiddo. I've walked you down the aisle. I've been a grandpa to your children. You've held my hand as it's faded away, and I'll do it again, just to be there with you. But I think this is the last stop.
Devin scratches his forehead and bites his lips to regain his composure.
That's why we need to keep the book of the story. Because stories are all we have. It's a window into someone else's life. Whether it's a painting or a song or an equation, it means something. And this book is just a small sliver, but stories help us imagine. And when we can't imagine someone else's life, or imagine a world beyond this, well, that's when people turn cruel.
Devin tears out a few blades of grass and holds them in his palm. He blows, and they scatter in the wind.
I think this is the end. This is the last time we'll see each other, huh?
Devin looks over at Kayla, but she's gone. A popsicle melts on the bench where he imagined her sitting. His palm still feels warm, imagining her hand in his. Hot tears run down his cheeks as he stares at the dark purple sky. Alone, at last. He thinks of how big the world is, and he feels very small. An emptiness swells in his chest that he hasn't felt before. He yearns for one more embrace, to hear another human say one more word, to experience one last kindness, to be kind to someone just once more. Devin watches the church burn until it's smoldering planks. He gets up, dusts himself off, picks up the book of the story and his provisions, and heads down the green space. He walks down the driveway to the gates. goes through them, and locks them shut. He watches as the final plank falls from the roof and the whole structure collapses. A strange purple glow emanates from the rubble, and a plume of red smoke rises from it. The smoke briefly takes the form of the symbol of the story, then disappears in the sky.
I can't imagine it gets worse than this.
Devin walks between abandoned cars on the 405, following the guide of the ill planet, a perverse star of Bethlehem. Waxy streaks leak from doors. The remains of a few car collisions smolder. Rain sprinkles. The water is oily and pink, and it makes the ground slick. Devin follows an off-ramp and sits beneath an underpass as the strange weather picks up into a howl. He looks into the tote bag and has enough food for a few days if he's smart. A few granola bars. The banana is turning brown. Once the weather passes over, he'll need food. He rests his head on his knees. Of all the things he has seen, this he has not. There's an odd electricity in the air, like the planet is turning in on itself. He's sure this is the last cycle. He thought it'd be more climactic than this. Perhaps an asteroid hitting the Earth, or him finally feeling a sense of relief with an ultimate peaceful death. But he is alone, from dust to dust. Devin nods off. Time passes. He dreams he hears footsteps, and he shakes awake. The footsteps continue closer to him, and his heart speeds up. The noise echoes between the cars, and finally a head peeks out from behind the hood of a Ford Taurus. It is not a human head. It's a chimpanzee in lingerie. Devin instinctively raises his palm, showing he's not a threat.
Don't come any closer.
The chimp doesn't snarl or falter, but looks Devin up and down. She shakes her head at the man. Without a sound, the chimp turns and walks in the opposite direction. There's a desolation to her stride. Each step takes more effort than the last. Devin takes the banana from the tote bag and jogs after her.
Hey,
He says, his voice echoing in the underpass.
you don't have to go. Are you hungry?
He holds the banana out in front of him like a flashlight. The chimpanzee cocks her head at the fruit.
Food. Food.
He enunciates.
For eating.
He mimes taking a bite. She slowly approaches him with her palms at her chest. Devin places the banana on the ground and takes a step back.
It's all yours if you want.
The chimpanzee crawls on all fours, picks up the fruit, and beholds it. Never taking her eyes off Devin, she sticks it in her mouth and bites clean through, peel and all. As she chews, her shoulders slump. She closes her eyes in quiet bliss and shakily falls to the ground. Devin sits down and crosses his legs. He taps his fingers against his knees and takes a breath.
I'm Devin.
Paradise Rising.
Where the ill planet beckons, Devin and Velvet follow. They make no plan, discuss no agreement, yet one has been struck. They are partners in the journey, and as days pass on the lifeless wasteland, companions. Their strides slowly synchronize. Devin delights in his newfound companion. He finds himself singing old songs he forgot he knew.
Get those doggies rolling, right.
Velvet waits for this man to also turn. Sure, he will betray a darker tendency that never arrives. The next morning, a savory smell wakes Velvet.
Wake up. Breakfast. I made a scrambler, like you get at Denny's.
He presents her a pan of steaming hash browns, scrambled eggs, and bacon. Velvet has never eaten warm food. At first bite, she discovers a satisfaction never before imagined. Devon's kindness is more than a surprise, but a miracle. The man notices as the chimp picks the onions out of her subsequent bites. Her meals will never know another onion. Sun sets on the melting landscape, but the ill planet lingers, beckoning. It obeys not the laws of this land, but another rude astronomy. In the golden light, Velvet watches Devon finesse his thinning hair in a gasoline-streaked puddle of wax. The sparse strands do not obey him. Devon sighs at his swirling reflection until Velvet's image appears behind him in the puddle.
What? What are you... Oh.
She combs his hair with gentle fingers, picks parasites latched to his scalp. Acts of love she has never received, but recalls from some other life. From that day forward, what remains of Devon's hair is perfectly coiffed. Together, they practice in all the small ways that make a life endurable. The next day, storms sweep over the crystalline trees and leaning skyscrapers, lightning standing every chimp and human hair up in static attention.
We need to take shelter.
Rain soaks them as they flee to an abandoned Crocroa factory. Devon gathers scrap wood and paper and builds a fire. He rummages through his tote for a dinner. He finds the can of tuna and dumps it wet into a pan.
Supper time.
Velvet sniffs at the campfire tuna casserole, and her nose wrinkles at a foul odor. She pushes it away.
Guess you don't like seafood. Well, more for me.
Devon does not wake with the sunrise. He lays on his stomach and groans. Velvet wipes her broad palm on his forehead. The sweat is cold.
Bad tuna.
He shivers, but less so as Velvet wraps her arms around him. She spends the day wiping his forehead with a rag. To soothe his quaking stomach, she takes little sips from a Crocroa Pepto and spits them into his puckered mouth. Hours pass. Hypnotized by the stuttering rise and fall of Devon's chest, her eyelids grow heavy. Before sleep takes her, she wonders if she has ever cared for anyone or anything in her life. A crack of lightning wakes Velvet. Rain pounds the factory roof like a high school drum line. The chimp looks down at the rag and then around the room. Devon is gone. In a panic, Velvet climbs the stairs and exits to the factory roof. The rain mats her fur as she peers over the side of the abandoned Crocroa factory. Fear and necessity mix together in her larynx, and she produces a new sound from her mouth in a scream to the wasteland below.
Delvin!
Nothing. In all directions, nothing. Tears mix with the rain on her cheeks. As she turns back to the stairwell, from the corner of her eye, a figure appears minuscule and dark on the distant road. Velvet races down the stairs, through the factory, and out the door toward the figure. The figure stops and opens his arms wide. He holds something in the right hand. A bag? Velvet and the figure collide in the rain. Devon has returned to her.
Please, never leave me.
She hugs until Devon gasps for air. Devon marvels at her roughshod but articulate speech. The great barrier of language was not as wide a divide as they had been taught to understand in the old world. If they stopped and listened long enough, they could understand every word.
When I woke up feeling better, I had to do something nice for you.
Velvet relinquishes her grasp as Devon opens the bag for her. He pulls forth a flowing summer dress and a floppy sun hat.
You deserve something new.
Velvet slips the dress over her head in the pouring rain. Devon fits the hat lopsided on her head. As Velvet tips the brim back, she sees Devon smiling back at her. The rain recedes to a sprinkle. They join hands. Together, the pair traverse mile after mile, night after night. They take in the molten landmarks, the drooping St. Louis Arch, the Mississippi aflame, the original Arby's in Boardman, Ohio, until they reach their destination. The ill planet hovers over an enormous wall, an artificial horizon of weather-eroded stone. Devin cups his hands over his eyes to blot out the sun and scans the length of the wall. If it ever ends, the curvature of the earth has made it a mystery. He could feel the story calling to him. He pulls the book of story from the tote and flips to the last page. A new story begins, but the end has not been written. Once again, he is a character. He reads the next words.
Velvet calls to him. What the heck?
Velvet calls to him.
Devin!
The chimpanzee stands before two lone markers on the infinite wall. A pair of marble squares set smoothly into the stone, each bearing a handprint. On the left, a human hand dips into the stone, and on the right, a chimpanzee's.
Do you think?
Devin closes the book and approaches the marker. He places his palm into the man's hand imprint, as Velvet does the same with the chimps. A deep rumble emanates from within the wall, and each stagger to their knees. Distant gears grind. The earth shakes, pebbles vibrate, goo jiggles. A seam cracks forth in the wall between them. Blinding light shines from the silver, expanding with every earthquake jostle into a glowing tunnel.
Golly.
Devin and Velvet share a glance. They take each other's hand and step forward. A new world emerges through the ethereal glow. Trees sag low to the ground, heavy with ripe fruit. No buildings mar the skyline. Instead, the horizon bursts with mountains and snowcaps, a full moon, and directly overhead, the ill planet. Velvet bends over to pull a carrot from the soil, then a robust zucchini, and an impressive rutabaga. Devin can't help but smile. He swings Velvet in a circle by the hand, and the two laugh until they lose balance and fall into a bed of chrysanthemums. As the laughter fades, they realize how close they lay to one another. Their noses nearly touch. Devin blushes first, then Velvet.
Epilogue.
Okay, Velvet. Honey, I need you to push.
Pain contorts Velvet's face. She grips Devin's hands, then his forearms, each turned burly and tan from years tilling the land, gathering harvest after harvest.
Come on, darling. One more push. Push, push, push!
With one final heave, Devin sees the head and shoulders emerge from the mother. His breath leaves him as he receives the gooey child. A distant memory returns to him. He recalls how to swaddle a newborn. Devin wraps the boy in the tattered flag of a fallen nation. The child cries, and the mother and father join him.
He's beautiful. Why should we name him?
Devin looks at the child, the boy. His heart knows a warmth he thought he had forgotten. The waxy child gurgles in his first embrace. They live for one another, the man for the woman for the man, each for the boy. A family at last.
How about Choms?